For my independent reading book, I have selected a non-fiction book titled Wormwood Forest, A Natural History of Chernobyl by Mary Mycio. To quickly summarize, this book delved into the effects of the 1986 Chernobyl nuclear power plant disaster on nature. The author Mary goes on a journey accompanied by scientists to the disaster's affected areas to study the wildlife's reaction to the radiation many years later. This book heavily uses the theme of resilience repetitively throughout its run to establish the way that the wildlife has adapted after human civilization in the area has vastly depleted. I greatly appreciate that the author takes the time to define specific scientific factors involving radioactivity in a way that anybody reading it can understand. For example, in the beginning of the book, she explains how radiation works, starting from atoms and developing onto how the number of protons has to change in order to perform radioactive decay. While I've already learned about radioactivity in chemistry, this knowledge would be beneficial for a person who has never been exposed to the topic and is very interested. On the contrary, I dislike the constant change between scientific dialogue and anecdotal dialogue. While I enjoy that the author connects the happenings of the disaster to the events in the country she is visiting, for example, how she explained the number of weddings that were due to happen on the day of the disaster that couldn't happen, I wish that she could make these sentences flow better, since it feels rushed when she moves from serious facts to random occurrences. To continue, I would like to discuss some passages in this book that have stuck out to me. To begin, on page 153, Mycio writes, "In the first months after the Chernobyl disaster, all of the zone's waterways were metaphorically bitter with radiation. It flowed through the entire aquatic cycle, following with the rain filtering through the aquatic cloud that meandered around the Western Soviet Union for months, trickling across contaminated surfaces coated with fallout, washing out the tons and tons of water and chemicals used to decontaminate towns, villages, and the nuclear plant's grounds." I find this passage intriguing, since I enjoy its descriptive nature. The passage I find interesting occurs on page 241, where Mycio inquires, was Chernobyl's message one of hazard about the dangers of technology and the fact that all of us, 5 billion strong, live downwind from 300 nuclear reactors that are operated by mere people and have a statistic probability of one meltdown every 30 years? Or was its message one of hope, that no matter how humanity messes up, nature will persevere, even if it is forever changing, unnaturally natural, like the radioactive landscapes of Chernobyl? This passage was profound to me, because the author is contemplating what Chernobyl meant in a philosophical lens. She is contrasting whether it was meant as a warning that our technology and us as humans, overconfident in handling it, can lead to disasters, or as a message of hope, since even after such a travesty, nature is able to renew itself and thrive. It brings up 2 points, one regarding a man versus technology conflict, and the other regarding a man versus nature conflict. I believe that her take on this was very nuanced. A particularly strong stylistic choice that this author made was clearing misconceptions on the topic. One instance of this was when she explained, "You are more likely to encounter a deformed toad or frog in the United States," which breaks the notion that the animals that inhabit the Chernobyl exclusion zone are mostly mutated or deformed. I'm glad she included this, since many individuals do think that since it is a largely radioactive zone, the animals are all outwardly mutated, when that just is not the case. I would definitely recommend this book to people who are captivated by the Chernobyl disaster, but on a deeper level, this book would be beneficial to those studying nature's ability to thrive after major changes, since this book goes through the different ways nature has taken over the exclusion zone. This book would also be a great beginner's guide to radioactivity and its effects on nature. This book has taught me tidbits I did not expect it to. One of these was that many people believed that the word Chernobyl meant wormwood, and that the quote, "The third of the waters became wormwood, and many died from the water because it was made bitter," from Revelations predicted the Chernobyl disaster. However, Chernobyl, spelled Chernobyl, is the Russianized version of the Ukrainian word Chernobyl, spelled Chornobyl. And Chernobyl is a different species of the Artemisia plant than wormwood, which is absinthe, while Chernobyl is mugwort. I would like to ask the author where she got the spark to start researching further into this. In the book, it details her Ukrainian roots inspired her journey, but I wonder what else got her into the radioactive aspects of it. I would also like to ask her how it felt to meet such profound scientists. To conclude, this book was very informative, and I got to learn a thing or two about Chernobyl. I do definitely recommend to pick up this book if you are looking for a new nonfiction book.